As for Robert Mueller's special counsel, this latest leak is not surprising. What Mueller's doing is deliberate. This special counsel, his team of Democratic donors, Hillary donors, Obama donors, DNC donors, they are selectively leaking daily to the media to keep President Trump off balance. Mueller doesn't care about the truth or evidence or facts because he's been on a witch hunt. Look at the team he's put together. And the leaks are obviously intentional because it happens every day. And if Mueller really cared about uncovering real crimes, real wrongdoing, Mueller, you'd be investigating them. You know, if Mueller's going to keep expanding his mandate, why doesn't he focus on the Clinton bought and paid for Russian dossier with Russian lies? Does Mueller not care that Hillary paid for this Russian propaganda and she did it to influence an election? Does Mueller not care that Christopher Steele is an unregistered foreign agent who hates President Trump? Does Mueller not care about the FBI lying to a FISA judge not once, twice, three times, but four times, using an unverified dossier as the bulk of the application to get a warrant from FISA judges to spy on a campaign associate so they have access to everything in that campaign? Does Mueller not care that this FISA warrant likely gave access to all of Trump campaign's communications during an election? I can go on all night. Does Robert Mueller, sir, do you really not care that Clinton fixed and had fixed for her that email investigation and we know crimes were committed? Or the unmasking scandal, a 350% increase in 1 year? Or the Uranium One scandal? You were the FBI director at the time. We had an FBI informant that had infiltrated Putin's criminal scheme to control America's uranium. Well, you have no problem going down every other rabbit hole, Mr. Mueller. Why don't you look into these scandals? This is why we need the second special counsel, someone that is going to lead from the outside this swamp. You can't have people involved in these scandals investigating themselves. That means Mueller, that means Comey, they have these friendships going on here. Rod Rosenstein, they're all BFF, old colleagues. You really think they're going to hold themselves and each other accountable? Of course, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, he created this special counsel witch hunt. Now he needs to fix it. You can't be confirmed the AG and then the next day recuse yourself. And by the way, cite the wrong law, as Greg Jarrett pointed out last night. We need the second independent prosecutor. Now, if Sessions knew he was going to recuse himself, he never should have accepted the job as Attorney General. Look at the chaos that as a result of all of this. Here's a key fact. Greg Jarrett pointed this out. This is where we cite. Sessions cited the wrong law as the justification for recusing himself. He's the Attorney General. So the burden of all of this, that is dragging this country down, falls squarely on Jeff Sessions' shoulders. Tonight, Mr. Attorney General, do your job and fix the mess you created. And also tonight, another damning report about James Comey's incompetence and his highly questionable conduct while leading the FBI. Friend John Solomon reporting that the longtime head of the FBI Telecommunications Surveillance Unit is saying that he warned James Comey about how that particular spy program was dangerously ineffective in catching terrorists. Comey never tried to fix it. That's like Obama was warned about Russian collusion and influence on our elections and did nothing and laughed at the idea. Here's what the retired special agent told John Solomon. Take a look.
I believe that the program as it was ripe for potential abuses, regardless of how it's abused, but it could be. And frankly, I see what's been happening in the last year and a half, and that just proves the point that this program could be abused and that it would not be used for the purposes that it was intended for.
All right, a lot to get into tonight. Here with reaction, Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, Fox News analyst Greg Jarrett, and from the Hill, we welcome back John Solomon. Sarah, let's start with you. Let's start with McCabe. Let's start with a special counsel now seems inevitable, and how much trouble Andrew McCabe is in tonight beyond a pension.
I think a special counsel is inevitable. It's going to happen, according to the sources that I've spoken with. And McCabe is in a lot of hot water, Sean. It's not just about his pension. According to the sources I've spoken with, McCabe will be fired. It'll be surprising if he's not. Right now, that's what I'm hearing. And secondly, there are a number of charges that they're looking at based on different statutes. And this I've heard from several different sources. Now, I did contact the FBI and asked for comment, and they told me they could not comment on McCabe whatsoever. They did hear me out, but they would not comment on this whatsoever, and particularly on any possible charges. Remember, General Flynn was charged for basically saying that he didn't tell the whole truth to the FBI. Now, that's still up for debate right now, because we know that the FBI agents, one of them being Peter Strzok, didn't believe that he lied. So we've got to get to the bottom of that. But if McCabe lied to this, to the IG, if he lied to people within the FBI, and if he leaked information that should have never been leaked, it would be surprising that he would not be brought up on charges.
Greg Jarrett, there are a lot of questions legally tonight. The IG has no prosecutorial powers, none. That gets into the issue of what Tillis and Cornyn and Graham and Grassley were rightly calling for, which we have both called for. And then I want you to address the wrong law that was used by the Attorney General in his recusal.
Well, first of all, McCabe's in a load of trouble, and James Comey's in even bigger trouble. For McCabe, he's looking at making a false and misleading statement, punishable by up to 5 years behind bars, and for every false statement, it's an additional crime. Second, obstruction of justice. It follows along the same line. If he's not telling the truth in an investigation, he's obstructing it. That's obstruction of justice. And for every time he does it, it's yet another crime. James Comey, I mean, you can multiply it by 10.
Talk about Rod Rosenstein.
Rod Rosenstein, if he well knew that this dossier was unverified and uncorroborated, and yet he signed off on it, then he's committed one of at least 6, if not all 6, felony statutes.
And the deep state protects itself. Congressman Chaffetz, I am a huge supporter of law enforcement. This actually hurts to talk about. This is not rank and file FBI. These are the top echelon. We rely on them. We trust them. We trust our intel community. We give them the powerful tools of intelligence. And I'm looking at all this and I'm saying, how could this happen in this country at this level? Forget the media. They're useless. So-called journalists are pathetic. How did we get here? How do we fix all this?
My grandfather was a career FBI agent, and I think this country reveres the FBI. But you're going to have to make sure that justice and that Lady Liberty who has that blindfold doesn't take a little peek and say, oh, it's Clinton, so we're going to go easy on her and those around him. The best way to restore the confidence of the American people is to make sure that those, even in the highest positions of power, are held accountable. And that is to go after them and go to a grand jury and go before and prosecute these people if they believe that there's been a crime. And there's plenty of evidence that that has absolutely happened.
All right, John Solomon, we're not keeping that out of the discussion. I'm just trying to go in chronological order here. Forgive me. This is an important night with a lot of news. But you have now interviewed the FBI supervisor who warned Comey that the warrantless surveillance program was ineffective, also being abused. Is that true?
He said it was clearly able to be abused, and that was deeply concerning to him. But more importantly, it was invading Americans' privacies every day without catching any terrorists. He said in 13 years, he did an audit. In 13 years, the FBI only made one potential disruption of a terrorism case. And by the way, from using this program, and by the way, they had also found the information through traditional. So we're spying on Americans by the tens of thousands of leads they looked at in this program, and they only got one terrorism thing. And this is the program. Section 215 would be the program if you were building a case in 2016 against the Trump administration or the Trump campaign to try to prove collusion. You would use this power to try to find the connecting of the dots. This is the exact power that could have been abused in the middle of the Russia investigation or any of the other many investigations that have occurred over the last 13 years. And we're not hearing this from an outsider. We're hearing it from the man who ran the program.
He's like warned like Obama. But, you know, you and Sarah also broke the story, John, about the unprecedented amount of unmaskings that have taken place. 350%, if my recollection is right, increase during the Obama years.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And this is the program that produces the evidence that then people can go and say, please unmask that for me. This is one of the most powerful programs that we've given the FBI. And for a long time, James Comey and the FBI knew it was not catching any terrorists. It was invading people's privacy. It was ripe for abuse. And he did nothing. And I think that ought to be, I'm sure members of Congress, I talked to several tonight, I'm pretty sure members of Congress are going to dig deep into this revelation.
Let me go back to Sarah Carter. All right, so McCabe, he's got bigger problems than worrying about his pension tonight. I am hearing that there may be multiple criminal charges coming down the road for him, and the fact that a second special counsel is likely to be appointed in probably short order. I see that the fever pitch is now rising in Congress. I would believe the Attorney General must now act. But I want to ask you, the IG report, originally we were told it was about just Clinton emails and the investigation. It's that and so much more. What are we going to learn in this IG report, Sarah?
Oh, I think we're going to learn about the scope of the investigation, and that includes former FBI Director Comey, the possible weaponization of our intelligence community, the unmaskings, the relationships Peter Strzok, Lisa Page with McCabe. What were they doing? What were they talking about when they talked about an insurance policy? What were they planning? What was happening with the Obama administration? Because remember, they were all connected. So this went up to the highest levels, and this is what Congress is investigating right now, Sean. This IG report is not based on just McCabe or one small instance. These will be multiple reports issued by Michael Horowitz on his investigation. He has had 1.2 million documents. That is what he has had access to, and interviews with current and former FBI agents. This is going to be a massive investigation, and a special counsel will work with him if one's appointed.
We're running out of time, Greg.
There would have been no special counsel looking into Donald Trump and Russian collusion but for Jeff Sessions' mistaken recusal. He relied on a particular code of federal regulations.
Criminal investigation or prosecution.
Right.
That
It wasn't a criminal investigation or prosecution when he recused himself. It was, according to James Comey, a counterintelligence probe. So Sessions didn't have to recuse himself. And he either doesn't understand the law or he was snookered by Obama holdovers at the DOJ.
How much pressure do your sources in Congress, are they saying, putting pressure on the Attorney General now to have 4 senators, like they came out tonight, as strongly as they did, and they're even now wanting a criminal referral on Christopher Steele, Congressman?
Absolutely. You got 4 pivotal senators. You got Trey Gowdy and John Radcliffe in the House. You've had Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows for months and months calling for this. It absolutely should happen. If you can dovetail it directly with what the Inspector General is doing so that they have the prosecutorial power, it absolutely should happen. It should happen 2 months ago.
All right, John Solomon, I know we got your breaking news, but you have been covering this almost from the get-go as well. Let's get you get the final word tonight, sir.
Yeah, thanks. Listen, my sources are telling me they're in the final stages of going through the process and determining whether a special prosecutor should be named. There are standards that have to be met. The Justice Department is looking at that. There's an outside person arranging that for the Justice Department. I think we're going to see an announcement in the next few days. And if I had to bet on where my sources are telling me, it's going to end up with a special prosecutor.
How right have we all been, really quickly, and how wrong has the media been? Real quick.
We've been totally right, and the mainstream media has been absolutely wrong. They've actually just been ignoring it.
And Sarah?
Yeah, we've been right, and unfortunately so for the American people.
Yeah. Congressman?
Their inaction is inaction. It was a conscious effort. It's one of the biggest disappointments that I've seen in the last 10 years. Absolutely, fundamentally, totally wrong, top to bottom.
John?
Yeah, my father taught me never pat yourself on the back. You're only as good as your next story. So let's wait and see what my next story is.
All right. Well, John's a little more cautious, but it's not about who is right. It's a matter about what is right. And for this to be ignored is just, there's no excuse for it. All right. Thank you all. Another